countdown for blast off. X minus 5, 4, 3, 2, X minus 1, fire. From the far horizons of the unknown come tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in a million, could be years, on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Galaxy Science.
Warning. The following are thoughts and opinions that belong to 4chan and Reddit. They do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of the Atomic Shaman Sweat Lodge. This is for entertainment purposes only.
Someone saw me, but it wasn't me. Today my mom called me about something that happened, and I wanted to see if anyone could give me answers as to what this is or what it means. I am an active duty military member. I live on base on the other side of the country from my home state. Today I received a call from my mom, and she said that they bumped into the ice cream man, and he told them he had just seen me working at a Harbor Freights in my hometown. This ice cream man couldn't have been mistaken. He watched me grow up since I was 7 years old and sees me when I go back home for the holidays. He is not old, or sick, or senile, or on drugs. When the ice cream man told my mom he saw me working at Harbor Freights, my mom was like, no, that couldn't have been her, and he went on to say that yes, it was me, and that he had an entire conversation with me. He said he was surprised to see me because he knew I was in the military. He said he went on to ask me when I had come back home, and that I proceeded to tell him that I actually had left the military and came back home for good. He said it was 100% me, and even confirmed the tattoos I have on my arms. It spooked everyone because I am on the other side of the country and have not been home in a long time. What could this be? What does this mean? That wasn't my dog. Hello everyone. I decided it is time to share some of my stories with the world after tonight's encounter. Tonight 2:55 to 3 a.m.-ish, I was sitting on my couch eating a popsicle and scrolling on my socials. My normal sleep schedule has me up this late. My dog walked out of my bedroom, which is about 6 feet from where I am, with a small slight turn. He stopped to look at me. I can reach out and pet him if chosen. Understand he is super social and a Velcro dog, so I thought he woke up, noticed I wasn't in the room and wanted to lay with me. I called him and reached out. He moved away with a grunt and walked a few more steps past me to his blanket and laid down. I can see him in his spot curled up, and in that moment I decided I was cold and done with the living room. I stood up and walked a few steps to my room. I walk in and find my dog sandwiched in between my partner's arms, laying on his side, snoring softly. There is no way he could do that in the 30 seconds it took me to get up and go in the room. So what did I try to interact with? Is my grandpa trying to communicate with me? Hello everyone. My question is my grandpa trying to communicate with me? Or is it just my subconscious because he's on my mind? Here's why I'm asking. A couple months ago I had a dream where there were 3 deer on the road in front of my house. In the dream I was convinced one of the deer was my grandpa. The deer came into my bedroom window and sat on my bed and let me pet it. When I woke up from that dream I was in a state of shock and confusion. I word for word, bar for bar texted my friend saying I don't know why he would visit me, I'm not something to be proud of, plus he passed away when I was 5, so I don't remember much about him, though I do know I loved him and his death really affected me and it was the first loss I experienced. Anyway, the next night I go to bed and have a dream where I get a letter and it says, "OFC, I'm proud of you, why wouldn't I be?" And it's from my grandpa. Something I found interesting is that in this dream I was aware of the dream I had the night before, like even in my dream I was like freaking out. So naturally I was in even more shock when I woke up and I decided to look into it, and I found out that it was close to the anniversary of his passing. Fast forward to a couple days ago, I had a dream where I was in a Starbucks and I saw my grandpa, but it wasn't my grandpa, it just looked like him, so I was crying on the floor of this Starbucks cause I saw who I wanted to be my grandpa, but I knew it wasn't. Then like a day or two after that I had another dream. I was at school walking by the buses and the new bus driver again looked like my grandpa, so in the dream just like before I cried and panicked. So do you guys think my grandpa is trying to communicate with me, or is he just coming up in my dreams because he crosses my mind a lot? I was woken up at around 3:22 this morning by someone loudly snapping their fingers in front of my face. I sleep alone and lock my door at night. The whole room also smelled like rotting meat, and I had to air my room out to get rid of the smell. Help, very scared. I was at Walmart and it was 9 p.m. I go back to the cheese section to take a look but see something in the corner of my eye. A lady with a hoodie, but her eyes are pitch black, no whites at all. She looks at me with the most evil grin I have ever seen. Not 20 seconds later she shows up behind me as I turn around and is walking in a very weird reverse way, looks sort of as she was leaned forward, arms swinging, completely unnatural but reversed, or someone pressed rewind on the magic remote from Click. Everything felt dark and evil. Told my girlfriend and she's now freaked out. Visited by a dead relative and told I'd die during chemo. Back in March I found out I have cancer, and in June I had part of my kidney removed. Last night I dreamed I had to go to the hospital because they found more tumors, and while I was there my wife's recently deceased grandmother came in my room to talk to me. She was smiling and very pleasant to be around, but told me I'm supposed to be with them and that I was going to have to start chemo and that it wasn't going to work, but I had to do it. The very next thing an angel showed up next to her and said they needed me to come with them, but I had to do chemo first. She said it's not going to hurt and it will be like I feel asleep in bed next to my wife. They told me everything will be okay and I just need to let things play out as they happen. I woke up and have never had such a vivid dream before. I'm also not a religious person, so for an angel to show up really throws me through a loop. I want to tell my wife about it, but I also don't want her to get any more freaked out about the cancer thing. Something entered my house yesterday and I don't know what. At about 11 a.m., my friend left for work. She goes outside, locks the door, gets in her car, and forgets her wallet. She comes back in, gets her wallet, leaves, locks the door again, and drives off. I say bye to her a few times. The car is directly outside my window, and to have a good day at work, but she doesn't hear me. At about noon, I wake up to the front door opening. It's super soft, super slow, but I can make out the soft creak of the door, and hear the details like footsteps coming in, and the door closing, but not locking. I figure my friend came back in after forgetting something else, but it's noon, her shift has already started. And I didn't hear her car come back in the driveway, I just heard the front door open. Panic alarm set off in my head. Oh God, there's an intruder, what do I do? They're going to come up and attack me. So I stay very silent in my bed, not making a sound. Two of my cats also heard this and perked up and are looking at the entrance to my room, where my door's wide open. I silently panic, knowing I have a sword a couple feet away from me helps, but I'm in full fight or flight mode. My best friend wouldn't stand at the entranceway. I decide if I hear footsteps going upstairs, I'm grabbing my sword and making some noise. But then a weird thing happens. I hear soft footsteps like those Timberland work boots on the hardwood floor lead away from the stairs at the entrance, the lock to the basement door click open, the sound of the door open a little, and then the door close in the span of a minute. I decide my best course of action was to pretend nothing happened, and go back to sleep with the cats. At 2 p.m. I wake up and go downstairs to eat some food, remembering what had occurred a couple hours earlier. I check the front door and it's locked, I check the basement door and it's locked. I am worried but decide to act as if nothing happened. At 10 p.m., my best friend comes home and does her laundry. She comes back up saying the door to the boiler room is open about 25 degrees, enough to let our chubby cat in without touching it. I tell her no, I didn't go down there all day, and she starts freaking out. I tell her what had happened before, and we go downstairs together. I check out the rooms, close the door, and she does her laundry. After I close the door makes a noise like something is compressing on it softly from the other side, and then gets off it. It goes into the door frame slightly, makes a noise, and goes back to its normal resting position. My friend freaks out, I stare at it sword in hand ready for whatever's on the other side, and then the cats run around and play with each other upstairs. My best friend writes it off, and I write off my pointing my sword at the door as a bug being on top of the frame. There is no air downstairs, the windows are closed, and the door to the basement is closed as to not let the cats in. I still have not told my friend it was not her imagination that the door moved a little after I closed it. I don't know what to do, I hear things like loud bangs and the floorboards creaking now and then but nothing as flagrant as this. I've felt presences rarely but this felt like a whole person ready to attack me. I'm worried it's getting worse, and I don't like being in the house alone with it. What do I do in my means of feeling safe in my personal space again? I don't really believe in religion, but follow Judaism as that's what my parents do/did. Am I going crazy? So, my mum asked me if I was okay today, which I found irregular because she knows I'm always okay, but she left earlier to go to the shops and I was in by myself, and I'm always quite paranoid. I lock doors, turn my TV down quietly and make sure I listen out for her coming home, but recently I've started to hear little creaks from my loft, attic. But it's always when I'm home alone and not when people are in the house. I don't know if it's the house settling or I actually need to get one of my parents to check up there. Any ideas/tips? Got a call from my significant other asking if I turned the TV on. I'm in another country at the moment. I have lived in my home for about 8 years and have had the same TV and setup since I moved in. In my 8+ years I have never seen or had my TV just randomly turned on. I am currently on a gig in the UK and my baby girl and girlfriend are back at home in Phoenix. I got a message around 9 AM, 12:51 AM back home, from my girlfriend asking me if I turned the TV on remotely. I have fun while I'm gone. When I'm bored I like to mess with the automation at my home to mess with them. I said no and there's no way because it's not accessed remotely. Now, my home has had other funny things happen and I have always lived in homes with other guests and never felt scared or anything like that. They are welcome to stay as long as they don't mess with at the time my son and now my baby daughter. I decided to check out my cameras and although I do see the TV turn on I don't see much of anything else that caught my eye. Anyways, I added the video in case someone catches something I missed. I just saw my girlfriend but it wasn't her. In our apartment, my girlfriend was in the living room. I was in a bedroom and then saw her pass by and go into the restroom, but she actually never moved from the living room. What the fudge? Would it be me or her that's haunted or something else? I don't know what's going on. Recently things have been getting a bit weird. When I'm home alone I hear sounds as if someone is walking upstairs around my hallway and near my bathroom at the top of the stairs, and sometimes even sounded like someone was walking down the stairs. The floorboards are a bit knackered so I was kinda trying to ignore it. I was in the bathroom one time once again alone in the house and heard a knock on the bathroom door followed by voices that sounded like my mom and younger brother telling me they were going out and to come and say bye. They had left the house an hour before I even checked Life 360 and they were ages away so it couldn't have been them. I left the house because I was freaked out. Later on I came back home, My brother was there and looked at me confused when I got back, asking why I'd been shouting for him to come downstairs. I told him that I'd only just got in and that I never shouted for him. I've never seen him look so creeped out in my life. He was adamant that I had been shouting for him to come downstairs earlier. Can anyone explain what is going on? Desert City appeared and disappeared. I live in the far southern end of Utah on the AZ and NV border. We have lived in this area for over 20 years and we are very familiar with it. We live about a mile away from a mountain called the Magic Mesa. I just recently learned it was called Magic Mesa from the TV series Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. A few months back at around 10 p.m. at night, my boys and I were driving on a back mountain road and pulled off to the side in a common area where people go to shoot guns. This road is a few miles directly SW from the Magic Mesa. When we got out of the truck, we noticed lights from what looked like a small city below the mountainside and a massive red and white neon sign that appeared to be as big as the casino signs you see in Las Vegas. At first we could not figure out what the lights belonged to and what the neon sign was because it is just empty desert below the mountain. For a moment I could not figure out what I was looking at, and then I remembered a gas station that was somewhere below the mountain which has a very large soccer field next to it, so I immediately wrote it off as being lights from the gas station. We drove away and my boys began to argue with me that it could not be the lights from the gas station because there isn't a large red and white neon sign at the gas station and the gas station is several miles in the opposite direction. I continued to shrug it off as the lights to the gas station, but after arguing with my boys about the lights for several days, I drove back up to the same location to take pictures of the lights to prove it to them, and the lights were gone. What looked like a small city with neon signs was completely gone. We have driven back to the same location a dozen times during the day and at night, and the lights are gone and there are no buildings or anything else that would have produced all the lights we saw. Anyone else have any experiences like this or suggestions on what we saw? I got sick from a town full of witches. Doctors found nothing. An old man in a hidden house cured me. Hey guys, just wanted to share something strange that happened to me a while back. I'm 20, not superstitious at all, but what happened made me question things. My stepdad's side of the family is from a province I won't name for obvious reasons. People there are different. The place has a reputation. Locals say there are Mankukulam living there, folk witches, both good and bad. Everyone in the area is careful about how they act, what they say, and who they look at. Even my stepdad warned me, always be respectful and never let your guard down. Anyway, we went there for a short visit. One afternoon, I bought a sealed bag of chips and was just walking and snacking when I felt someone behind me blow air directly at the back of my neck. It wasn't just wind, it was like someone exhaled on me. I turned around, but no one was there. Just a few old houses and quiet streets. I brushed it off. A few hours later, I started feeling really weird. Dizzy, heavy. I lost my appetite completely, and my sense of taste disappeared. I couldn't enjoy food, couldn't sleep well, and just felt drained. My chest felt tight, but no fever. We went to a hospital the next day. Blood tests, vitals, everything came back normal. Doctors told me I was fine, maybe just stressed or tired. But I knew something was wrong. I felt off. And I wasn't the only one who thought so. My stepdad immediately took me to someone he knew, an old man who lived in a hidden house far from the center of town. No signs, no lights. Just a path locals apparently already knew. This guy was quiet, calm. Didn't ask questions, just told me to sit. He placed his hands on my head, muttered something in a language I didn't recognize, and then blew gently over the top of my hair. He handed me a small shot of some kind of bland tasting oil and told me to drink it. I don't even know what was in it, but I followed along. Nothing happened instantly, but about a day later, I started feeling normal again. Appetite came back, taste returned, the fog in my head lifted. Whatever that old man did spell, prayer, placebo, I don't know, it worked. I'm not saying I believe in Kulam or spirits, but I can't explain what happened either. I just know that something invisible messed with me, and science didn't catch it. Be careful out there, especially if you're visiting places with deep-rooted traditions. Some things can't be explained, and sometimes the old ways still have power whether you believe or not. Please believe me with this. Debunk this. The other night it was 12 a.m., and I was about to go to sleep until I heard light knocks on my closed door. I was terrified, but I didn't open the door. I heard it again, opened the door, wait there for 20 seconds, and closed the door again. I heard it once more and didn't open it. Then I went to bed scared out of my mind. The next day I asked my sister if it was her and she said no. Next my mom, another no. And I know it's not my father because he knocks too hard. Later in the day at about 8 p.m. I heard a weird sound across my bedroom. I kept hearing that until now. I've had other stuff happen like my light flickering and my lamp turning on randomly, but I just wanted to talk about that. Has anyone heard or seen something similar to this? So it's 90s. My uncle was coming home on bike very late around 2 a.m. and have passed the park and he heard the kids giggling and saw the kids in park playing. He thought, how come that late kids be playing this time? As he focused passing by he saw one kid taking off his head and giving to other one. I used to think how the fuck that can be, then I started reading stuff on this sub and God knows what's not possible. Saw something strange, woman wrapped in white cloth in the middle of the street. Something weird happened a few nights ago, and it's been stuck in my head ever since. I was heading out around 7:30 p.m. to pick up some groceries, just a normal evening. The area I live in is usually quiet, a mix of small streets and residential buildings. As I was walking, I saw something or someone lying right in the middle of the street. It was a woman, or at least I think it was. She had long, dark hair, but her entire body was wrapped in a white cloth from head to toe. Only her hands and feet were visible. The way she was lying, it was almost like a mummy. Her arms were crossed over her chest, and both her hands and legs were tied together with some kind of string or cord. What really caught my attention was her hands. They were smeared with this deep red powder or paste, thick, like it had been applied deliberately. Around her wrists were small charms tied with thread, the kind people sometimes wear for spiritual protection or to guard against bad energy. They looked handmade, not decorative, more like talismans with meaning. There was no one else around. The whole street was empty, eerily quiet. No one was peeking out of the nearby apartment balconies, no one seemed to notice or care. I stood there for a few seconds, unsure of what I was even looking at. You'd think someone would have called the police or at least checked on her, but it was like she wasn't even there to anyone else but me. I didn't get too close, something about it felt off. After getting my groceries, I came back the same way, maybe around 30 minutes later, and she was gone. No sign of her, no cloth, no rope, no red powder, nothing. I know how this sounds. But I wasn't tired or stressed, and I don't have a history of imagining things. So, what the hell was that? A ritual? Some kind of warning? A ghost? A hallucination I didn't know I was capable of having? If anyone's seen anything remotely similar, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Still trying to make sense of this. I woke up to some creepy demon girl in my room. When I was about 14, I was spending the summer over at my mom's house, and in the middle of the night I randomly woke up to some creepy little girl crouched down walking in the room me and my younger brother was sleeping in. At the time I couldn't make out much detail of her cause she was like pitch black with long black hair covering her face. I remember waking up and just staring at her in shock. She just sat there crouched down and started walking towards where my brother was sleeping. At first I thought it was my niece, thought maybe she was scared of the dark and didn't want to sleep by herself, so I called her by name and said, "Is that you?" and it stopped, turned around and just walked out of the door like nothing ever happened, and I went back to sleep like nothing ever happened. It was weird. When I woke up the next morning, I asked my niece if she tried to come in the room last night. To find out she had been sleeping in my mom's room with her that whole night. What do y'all think? Give it to me straight/x/. Are we in the bad timeline? Ever since the internet was invented, I feel we're truly spiraling into tech dystopia and existential meaninglessness. We're manifesting our worst predictions about our own future, aren't we? Are we in the bad timeline? No, we're in the golden timeline, the only timeline where everything goes right. Things may seem dark, but I assure you, a golden age is to be ushered in. The future communicates with some of us. We're on the right path. You can tell this is the bad timeline because the Dreamcast flopped and the GameCube was successful. It's not all bad though. This is the only timeline where death grips is known to exist. Everything works out for the greater good. I need free grok for. Want to test this out, kek? Human thought is incongruent to intelligent experience and manipulation of the environment, physical and psychic. A upper 25% beautiful planet for life, diminishing, technology beyond our understanding from the stars, well beneath average among intelligent species, and among the lesser intelligent much more morality and common sense held sway, more strength, except in the soul. Before the dawn of time I told the weak souls I would demonstrate that the soul's strength is all important and everything else insignificant. This will show itself more with time. The many mortal lifetimes most of us live will demonstrate it as our ESP improves, until deities more obviously walk among us and other powers and also the lost, with an unusual concentration of strong souls on planet Earth. The first holy planet and the birthplace of God Almighty, even among the holy planets. This not the holiest planet, nor does it have the highest concentration of strong souls, good and evil, but at least in terms of strength of soul it is extraordinarily high, in terms of holiness over halfway up in the rankings of holy planets. Not so obvious everywhere because of inclement DNA, viruses, yada yada. We must align our lush to AI, this planet side and others, to the movement of storms, to alien thought, free and captured, liberal and conservative, until we find the most effective constellation of thought, eternities and eternities into the ever-expanding eternities of the heavens. The war timeline is over. Shithead still trying to summon it. Hard suppression voice. Fire. Be Akhenaten. New god just dropped, golden age starts now, trust me bro. Be Zoroaster. Savior incoming, golden age starts now, trust me bro. Be Augustus. Eternal peace starts now, trust me bro. Be Christian anytime in history. God is coming back in your lifetime, heaven on earth, trust me bro. Be Lenin. Scientific utopia guaranteed by history, golden age starts now, trust me bro. Be/X/New Age Guru. Vibrations rising, nobody 5D consciousness imminent, manifest this Ashta command crystal, trust me bro. Yeah right. Left to our own devices we'll kill ourselves with computers. Gods may or may not do something about it. Better to not associate change with bad. Better to be a surfer and ride the waves. 11D Ashta command crystals are so yesterday. Guess you're too boring for the future to commune with you. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Problem with that is that some things can actually change for the bad and you could be riding the tiger down to hell. No. We're in the best fucking timeline. Stop trying to manifest bad timelines by making these doomer threads all the time. If you knew how many crazy stunts we have to pull to keep this timeline at best possible every day, you'd really reconsider your life decisions. What have you done to help the collective experience from behind the veil lately? You're the navigator, friend. You have the free will to decide how the changes affect you. You can always choose love, We're all gonna make it? Can't change my mind. We're in the only timeline, at the bad time. We're in a bad timeline since about the year 1800, when the old glorious civilization on Earth got a reset. The Nephilim hand is such a great detail. Who reset it? Anon. I thought it happened more like in the 1700s with the Masonic revolutions and stuff. Considering we have Skibidi Toilet, a cringe Minecraft movie, a beloved gorilla died and the list is now a myth, yeah. This is the worst conspiracy ever, and even with all the schizo shit I believe is absolutely baseless and for dimwits only. There is one timeline which can be physically and mentally influenced by connected souls. No, actually this is what is happening during that time. Jews were officially allowed back into England in 1656 after being expelled in 1290. While Jews were expelled from France in the late 14th century, some returned, and by the 18th century. The process of Jewish emancipation, which involved granting equal rights, was a gradual process across Europe during the 19th century, with varying timelines depending on the country. What did you think Kaczynski meant by that? He was 100% right. We should have fought and gone back. Now it's too late. Yeah, Anon. Hate to partially agree, but from my social and career outlook been pretty true, seeing those you care for vanish and backstab just trying to survive sucks. I don't think it is solely the internet as much as it acting as a mass accelerant. Could just be my experience working my way through careers though, and the shit market. Regardless, at a high as just got the good D from the partner, and soon my finances are to ease as selling myself to some corp that is gonna pay handsomely for my skills. Better to be a well-fed guard dog than a starving homeless stray. Wow, we crashed it? Yeah. Who's going to stop it, dude? It's over. NGL wanna get my hands on that hardware so bad. Wanna dissect and reverse engineer it to open source. Anything that is made to go into someone's head should be crystal from soft to hard. I will. I'm already winning hearts and minds physically and mentally. Where do you think all the anti-tech thinking is coming from? The media is pro-tech, all politicians are pro-tech, the green parties are pro-tech. Send those thoughts out to the world if you have any power at all, and I'll amplify them. Afraid so. This is the evil you. You should grow edgy facial hair. Everything I liked about life is gone, and the most evil stupid people you'll ever meet are the majority and very happy. Fuck God, lol. That's the reptiles' trick. 2 more weeks. There is no God, they made that shit up. I myself have dreams of the future as well as visions. It will get better, but sadly not everyone will survive. There will be another great reset, and there will be mass sorrow and denial, as those who survive will have lost at least one of their loved ones. The society we know now will be moved underground, no cities, but underground suburban life with stores such as drug marts to give meds to the sad and sick, and traders under the big holes connecting above ground, where there is miles upon miles of farmland and returning nature. This will also be a highly spiritual time, as the walls between our world and the spiritual world are shattered. Our loved one who died before the Great Reset, including pets, will help us, but above ground there will be evil spirits, such as demons. And humans will have to learn how to defeat them like our ancestors did in ancient times. During this time the world will be watched over by the heavens, including Jesus himself. I agree, but please let's not curse the name of God. Jesus warned us things would get this bad before the end times. This is all that is wicked getting exposed for God's judgment, so please, do not let the wicked turn you away from God. That's what the devil wants. I know you're hurting, so please talk it out. I will be here if you're in need of a friend. There's no such thing as a good or bad timeline. Predestination is satanic cuckoldry. It's kind of funny, isn't it? The Dreamcast with its spiral flopped. The Cube was relatively successful by comparison, but also a bit of a flop in the face of the PlayStation 2. The Xbox, a big square with a cross logo, also wasn't a big success though good hardware with good games. They had to circle the square to land a big hit. Xbox 360. But then one simply didn't resonate with anybody, and they lost the plot with Series. Meanwhile Sony's just iterating on a theme and Nintendo tapped into transgender energies with the Switch, handheld today, console tomorrow, handheld next week, and its blue-red left-right scheme. Those are man-sized hands. And yes, this is hell. We are here for no good reason though. You should have seen the great Atlantean steel. Humanity will never make up for that. Seen a bad timeline in a dream. This isn't it? Horrific shit is normalized in a bad timeline. No one is publicly selling corpses as food, so stop whining. When was the last time you saw store shelves with meat? Do you mean to say that they are all alive? Chickens, cows, pigs, fish, and other animals. I'm talking about a dead earth, where barely anything grows. Dead oceans. Gray skies. All normal shit is out the window. Every carcass is a resource. And this is just how it is a normal response to it. That's a bad fucking timeline. Closest example in media I've seen is The Road, but that was a Disney outcome compared to that reality. I know you got way more good stuff. Let's hear them. What are your thoughts on the N64 being regarded as an anomaly? It's a truly weird machine, and Silicon Graphics played a part in making Project Reality exist, but then suddenly went bankrupt. As if the company SGI itself gave its life up, died. The N64 is its child but it failed to sell, but remains some kind of deep mystery. Sometimes I wonder if time travel is involved in that. BTW someone said the physical, little cylinder things in a NES game ROM chip actually do store stuff that a simple ROM on your computer won't have. Playing a ROM in an emulator doesn't have that extra special physical something the original hardware has. And CRT magic, that's magic right there. At least one rapture has already occurred. This planet is, in fact, the place that some people from Earth, such as myself, were raptured to. We weren't taken to heaven. We were brought here instead. We're now on a real, physical, 3D planet that is definitely not Earth. For one, the speed of time here is 50% faster than it is on Earth. In other words, a 10-second count using the Earth counting pace results in a whopping 15.00 seconds elapsing. And visually, when I look at a digital clock that has a seconds display, the seconds advance at a supernaturally fast rate. It truly looks insane, to me. For the natives, though, the speed of time here has always been the same. Note, in addition to the time difference, the human anatomy here is also vastly different, but you can read more about that later, when you get to the main material. Bottom line, this planet is Basra, not Earth. Moreover, the event in which Jesus destroys this planet is called the Day of Vengeance. There will be no 7-year tribulation or Antichrist here because this isn't Earth. Earth is roughly 75,000 light years from here, and is currently going through the tribulation. This is just an imposter planet. Make sure to read my pinned X thread, all 4 posts. And regarding my X bio, I'm exactly who I say I am. Basra natives must break free from the spell they've been under. This entire situation has gotten so ridiculous. At this point, I'm just waiting for the Day of Vengeance. Pinned X thread. No BS. No delusion. No LARPing. This is it, folks. This really is it. And I'm genuinely curious, how long will you keep pretending this is Earth? The time for pretending has long since passed. Let's not be so unpolite now, even though things aren't that bad that doesn't mean it's not bad at all. And who knows, that dream of yours could a prophetic dream of the future, or a warning that whatever you're buying is secretly human. How much fast food is in your diet? That's literally what people say about the world today. Either your dream is unveiling an illusion or it's of the future we will soon be living in. Console discussion and now time travel mixed in? This is what has been put into my mind, heart, and soul for years now. I am intrigued. 9/11 was the hard shift into the bad timeline. A former friend of mine told me about this when I told him more about my game idea. I too have noticed the odd time. Please, I know God sent me here to meet you, let's be friends. Most Nintendo consoles are anomalies. The NES was bog standard, all things considered. Just a simple cheap platform to open the market after everyone in America bit the dust. Game Boy was innovative but much the same thing. The only thing similar was Game & Watch, using LCD static images as a form of interactive sigil magic. The anomalies start around 1990. SNES, the 16-bit follow-up. It didn't have a 16-bit CPU. Same 6502 as the NES, which is why games slowed down so often. The sounds were all sampled and modulated, nothing was generated like on NES, GB, and Sega's hardware. Around the same time we got Super Mario 3, where the world's a stage and the symbolism kicks off. They made the Virtual Boy next. Proper hideous failure. N64 was just another step on that journey. Perhaps the most satanic thing about it was the controller, an inverted trident with one knob between the legs that you get to twiddle and break during Mario Party. It wasn't 64-bit either. 32-bit CPU, 32-bit reality display processor, GPU. Memory bus was 32-bit too, but CPU and GPU had their own dedicated access lines and the memory controller switched between them, one per clock tick. Very stupid. Very laggy. It hindered development and wasted performance. The GameCube actually was what it was advertised to be, but with tiny disk space, storage also being a problem on N64, and another weird unergonomical controller, it didn't make the cut. But then we got the Wii. A flat overclocked GameCube where the main gimmick is a square cock, the Wiimote, and one ball sack, the Nunchuk, which you swing around to play sports. Besides that, I'm really not that smart on Nintendo's Masonic shenanigans. Sega vibes better. In their brashness they were somehow less evil. Saturn, a 3D console that's better at 2D and uses quads instead of triangles for polygons, and didn't have a mainline 3D Sonic title. Almost too easy. Like they were benevolent with teaching, instead of trying to fuck people with the occult. We're gonna make it Famalam. Please show evidence or tell stories of true paranormal events you have or others you know have experienced. Be me, 10 or 11. Sleeping in bunk bed that's against one wall of my room. Experience sleep paralysis. Covers are over my head so I feel extremely hot, but hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. Feel the presence of 3 evil entities in my bedroom. Hard to explain, but one big one and 2 little ones. Feel like they're searching for something but the blanket is over my head. Feel like there are thousands of small childlike entities hiding behind me that I have to protect. The evil ones roam around my room and get close to me but never find me or the children. Have never felt terror like that in my life, they exuded pure predatory soul-destroying evil. Eventually feel them leave and drift off back to sleep. Experience sleep paralysis multiple times throughout my life. Similar entities to the first time, but usually just single encounters and not a group of 3. In my late 20s I read up on the phenomenon and how people us prayer to make the experience stop. Call out to Jesus Christ and God in heaven for protection for me and my family from them during one experience. It instantly stops. The next time one appears I feel it being very weak and perceive it as being shriveled. Call for God to banish it and it leaves. Now whenever I feel it start to come one, I preemptively pray and it nips it in the bud. Be me when I was a child. Could see demons, ghosts, and angels. People thought I'm crazy. Got me to a psychiatric hospital. Doctors who work for the demons tried to MK Ultra me, so that I don't see it anymore. Didn't worked. They let me go. I don't talk anymore in public about what I see. On the material plane, the normal world, the angels and the demons are physical people. They look like humans, only I can see that they're not. It's something about the aura. On the astral plane the angels look like beings of light and the demons look dark, like shadow people. The ghosts of the dead look like people, not transparent or so, but I see that they're not physical and other people can't see them. Yet, getting drunk helps to reduce the psychic sense, so I drink when I have to go to the city. Dealt with demons all my life. Not talking about I hear spooky voices telling me to do bad things. It's not paranoid schizophrenia or hallucinated delusions. They are real physical entities that others have witnessed manifest and attack me. I take precautions to keep them at bay and regularly drive them out from myself and my home. They're not tied to the house, they go where I go. On a lighter and presumably unrelated note, I roomed with a couple once. The husband was Catholic and the wife Buddhist, while I'm Protestant. We concluded that it created a spiritual imbalance because strange things would happen. At night, what we dubbed as the ghost of the upstairs neighbor, would move dishes, opening and closing cabinets and drawers. There was another incident where I was in the living room with the 3 pets all around me playing some game when suddenly the air felt very tense. Heat plus pressure. The pets started acting scared/protective, growling and hissing at empty space. I knew something was wrong and turned off the PlayStation, slowly standing up when the pressure shot up to 11 and the crucifix above the fireplace flew off of it and the animals freaked. I grabbed them and ran to my room. They stared at the door for hours, until suddenly, it was just fine. The last incident was when the husband and I were hanging out. He was drinking but I wasn't. As we were going to bed we were laughing about something when a bedroom door slammed shut, violently hard. However, as husband was drunk and I was slap happy, we both just died laughing and went to bed. 1. Prayer, reading of scripture, and wards. The most effective wards have been posting verses in places I see them, so I'm constantly in the spirit. As for driving them out, it's literally just that. When I feel or see them I call on the spirit and cast them out. Activity has dropped in the last 2 years, with maybe one incident every 2 to 3 months versus at its height where incidents were occurring daily. This leads me to believe there were a lot of them, and that most have been driven out entirely, either a few stragglers hanging on or being stubborn and trying to come back. I don't know. 2. Scratching is most common, though tearing might be a more apt descriptor. The marks left are usually deeper than a scratch. Choking has occurred, as has attempted rape, though that's never succeeded. Thank God. 3. I don't know what to tell you. There was a dark period during my military service wherein anyone who came to my home could immediately feel the tension and cold in the air, feeling uneasy enough to want to leave, even those I specifically didn't say anything to. Those who spent enough time around me would start to see the signs, lingering shadows, faces in the dark. Only 4 witnesses to date of physical attacks, 2 of which were family. If what you're telling is true, then there is deep cover-up within all world governments about this topic. They pill-push all of this stuff with psychology, they try find culprit in schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, multiple personality disorder, all kinds of different disorders that have never been scientifically proven, but which they can provide medication, that more than likely has more negative effects than positive. I feel it's so very wrong, that our leaders cannot be transparent about the nature of our reality. When the lies begin at such axiomatic level, there's nothing I can trust what they say. My ex-girlfriend's mom was a notorious and severe alcoholic. She died of cirrhosis. We visited her at the hospital on her last day alive. My ex-girlfriend said she didn't care that she died because of how badly she was abused by her. We went to the dead woman's neighbor's house, who was my ex's aunt or something. I was day drinking and kinda worn out when I got there. They visited and I sat on the couch and I felt my chest collapse and I couldn't breathe. I somehow knew it was the ghost of my ex's mom trying to kill me. I really thought I was going to die. I fell on the floor and held on for my life. I could see the light and everything. Kinda lame story, but with the only real paranormal thing I can think of. Be me, 19 years of age. My girlfriend, now wife, and I were home at my parents' house for the weekend. It was November 10th, 2020. In Middle Tennessee. We were going to stay up all night for the PS5 release. There were trails up the road from my parents' house that led to a clearing at the top of a hill. We decided it would be a good idea to hit the trail at around 10:30 p.m. We made it to the power lines at the top of the hill. Make_out.jpg. After we were done enjoying ourselves, we made our way back home. About 100 yards from the car, we hear this noise that sounds like an elk or an owl call. No big deal, keep walking. Very suddenly, the noise becomes louder, distorts, multiplies, and is closing in on us in all directions. We don't say a word to each other, but we both begin sprinting to the car. It is right on our ass. Made it to the car just in time. Dead silence, not even crickets chirping. Start the car and go home, shitting bricks. Stay up all night speculating what it could have been. Come to the conclusion that it was a Wendigo. 3 a.m. Leave to go get PlayStation 5. On our way down the road, girlfriend screams her head off and points to the tree line. I didn't see what it was, but I did see a shadow run into the woods and saw it disturb a lot of brush. Wife stated it looked like a human-sized raccoon running on its hind legs. Never go back into those woods again. I still to this day wonder what the hell that thing was, and whenever I bring it up to my wife she freaks out and tells me not to speak of it. I honestly wonder what /x/ thinks we got chased by. I obviously cannot provide any evidence, but 3 years ago, attending grandfather's funeral, Northern Europe. During ceremony in church, big cast iron candle holder shaped like a dome moves 10 centimeters as if kicked. Nobody present has long enough legs or strength to move this thing that far while seated. First 2 rows of benches are flustered, but ceremony continues. First 2 rows all saw it and couldn't explain it, no wind. 3 days later, I'm staying in grandparents' house alone, fell asleep on the sofa. At almost exactly 0700 sharp I'm awoken by the sound of someone walking slowly up the stairs. It's a very distinct sound on the wooden stairs, but it was so loud it was not just normal creaking. I sit up straight, throw a shirt on and look towards the door where staircase leads to, expecting one of my uncles to open the door, thinking I had overslept and it was actually late. Sound of steps up the staircase continues until what sounds like the last step. Nothing happens, nobody walks through the door. It was so loud that a heavy sleeper on mild drugs woke up. As I am sitting up looking at the door, I get a very intense feeling of being observed, somehow. Almost feels like there is an extremely faint shade/apparition of someone right in front of me. Lasts just a couple of moments. A bit flustered I ask if anyone is there, and if there are it's okay, and if it's you grandfather, we miss you and I'm sorry for not being there more often. Grandfather would always get up at 0630-0700 sharp. Honestly, the weirdest part was the incredibly intense feeling, almost overwhelming sensation of being observed, of watched. Stomach turning, heart racing for a few moments. Never really given this stuff too much thought up until this happened. Other than this, I've only had one other paranormal experience, if I can call it that. Around 10 years old. In Northern Europe on a hike with uncle and nephew and their dog. Far out in the wild, used snow scooter to get there. Set up this big lavu on a frozen lake. We get set up, ice fishing etc. Uncle teaching me and nephew some wildlife skills. Sometime after dark, dog, which was just chilling, perks up and looks straight up towards the side roof of the lavu/tent. Starts barking. Barking intensifies. Clearly looking up, not to the sides, not to the doorway, up. Lasts for what felt like an eternity. Uncle goes out to check. Nothing. If it had been an animal like an eagle, elk, or other, he would have spotted it. Dog keeps barking while clearly looking at something above, near the roof of the tent. It follows something around in the tent that we can't see, as if it's swirling around the inside of the tent. Eventually just stops, staring straight up towards the side roof. Pretty spooked out, but didn't think too much of it. Uncle refuses to believe in ghosts or paranormal stuff to this day, but still can't explain what happened back then. Turns out we were camped on ice above a native graveyard before they artificially flooded the valley by damming. I have a couple. Be like 10. Always thought my house was creepy. Mother told us about her experiences growing up there. Same house I'm growing up in now. So scared, have to always sleep with someone. Sleep in my grandpa's room one night. Very Catholic man, pictures of the Trinity everywhere, cross, Bibles, you name it, church on Sunday, even opened the church every morning and had the key to it. For some reason I wake up, feel drawn to the closet. I sit up and look over my grandpa's asleep body, into the closet. You know how your eyes adjust to the dark and you can see? I could see the entire room. Except the closet. It was pure black. Like a void of nothingness. See two red eyes peering out. My adrenaline skyrockets. I lay back down. Tell myself it wasn't real. The next memory I have is of me waking up in the morning. The entire house is empty. I was left alone with this fucking thing. Not really paranormal, but when I was a kid there was one corner of my yard that went to the woods and I was just inexplicably scared of it. Closer I got to it and past some trees, I felt like I was super far away from home, even though if I turned back I could see my house was maybe only a football field away. I grew up in PA and would walk around the woods with friends all the time or go down to a creek with my neighbor friend, but that one corner there I would never go to. I can't remember what age I was, but I was old enough to be left in an above-ground pool by myself. I was in the pool and saw something in that tree line that was definitely not a deer or human, but it was pretty big and I still remember it to this day. Two random things come to mind that I associate with sprites. Once a couple years ago the remote control disappeared out of our guest bedroom. I looked all over the room, under the bed, inside drawers, etc. Couldn't find it. I pulled the cover and top sheet off the bed to make sure it was somehow in the bed. A few days later I noticed a lump under the cover and lifted it back and the remote was just sitting there on the bed. 2. The other day my wife sends me a text. The guest toilet was running, so she lifted the tank lid off and found a lady's sanitary pad inside the tank that had made its way between the gasket and the hole of the tank that goes down into the toilet. We don't have people over typically and no one she knows, including herself, use pads, they use tampons. Early 90s. Upstate New York. Family cookout, all the cousins, aunts and uncles, massive gathering. It's summertime, so super nice out. In the early evening I happen to notice what looks like a homeless bum walking at a leisurely pace out of the woods behind the house and towards the party. I tell my mom. She looks at the man and immediately calls for my dad. My dad takes one look at the dude and immediately says, "Jesus Christ, get everybody in the house." I clearly remember everyone running into the house as this man approaches from the woods. Just some dirty bum with a long beard, looks to be maybe 50s but could be younger. We watch from the porch windows as the bum lifts a picnic table full of food and drinks and flips it with one hand. I clearly remember my uncle wanting to go out and fuck the dude up. He even went to open the door to go out, but my grandpa stopped him. Dude turns and makes eye contact with me through the window. Smiles. Eventually stumbles back into the woods the way he had come and disappears. Now what is so weird about all of this is that my dad was a lieutenant with the city police department. He could have had the whole department down there with one phone call. But he was terrified. My grandpa was a World War II Marine vet and my uncle was a professional boxers. These were tough dudes. And they were all afraid of this dirty old bum. Grandpa and uncle have both passed, but I asked my parents about this a couple years ago and they both claimed they don't remember it. Bullshit. Probably 16 years ago. Festive time. Drunk. 12:30 a.m. Decide to go for a ride in the hill. Stop at a suspension bridge. Place is infamous for bad incident. Start drinking beer. Can't find a friend. He was supposed to talk to his girlfriend friend. Cause no signal, weird. Call him. No answer. Hear a noise. WTF. He is standing lifeless in front of a white fog. Don't know what to do. I go near him. A electrical sensation take over me. But somehow I get hold of him. Pull him near me. He fell. Senseless. I shout to bring the car. Pick him up. Drive straight back to city. His body is burning like fire. After this we really don't know what the fuck happened. I went to that place several times after that incident, course in the morning. It still freaks me out. Sometime between 2008 and 2012, I can't exactly remember when, a friend was driving me home late at night. It was probably after 2 a.m. We were driving along a deserted road that ran past some industrial park that no company had moved into yet. It was a fairly long and straight road. We were just chatting, getting close to my house, when the headlights passed over this giant shape on the side of the road. We stopped talking and stared at it. It was this massive white wolf. Sitting on its haunches, it was at least as tall as my friend's truck. It stared at us as we drove past. I turned around in my seat to look at it. The wolf watched us for a few more moments before rising and slinking off into the darkness. I turned back around and we were both silent for several seconds before I asked him if he saw the same thing I did. He had. We didn't say anything for the rest of the ride and we didn't mention it to each other or anyone else for almost 10 years. It's kinda hard to get across how huge this thing was. I felt like both me and my friend could have comfortably rode on its back with room to spare. My wife is a medium and high strangeness surrounds her. Anybody who spends enough time with her will end up experiencing some paranormal fuckery. Laying in bed in the morning. Kids are at school. Hear something walk out of her room. Knock on door. Mom. Dad. Are you there? Only one in house. Before me and my wife are married. We've been dating 6 months. She's cooking dinner in kitchen behind me. I'm at desk in dining room chatting with her. Lacroix in kin next to laptop. I say something about never experiencing poltergeist phenomenon. Looking right at Ken. Slides to the other side of the desk at a consistent speed and stops at the edge. Have friend over. He summons stuff. Wife claims he's got a blue thing attached to him. I decide to put friend in hypnosis to learn about it. Put him under. Ask him to remember what it is. His body tenses up, face starts getting red, violently shaking like he's being choked or suffocated. Not an exorcist.jpg. Walk him out of hypnosis. Red marks around his neck. Friend is shook, his girlfriend pukes, they both leave in fear. I have evidence, I just don't like showing it because it's on my body. Be 12 or 14. It's always a year that is even numbered. Wake up on a sort of hospital bed. Was simply sleeping beforehand. There is a square-shaped tent on my chest. There are two large insectoids flanking me. They are touching antennae as long, more sleek, and aesthetic. Longer neck. As an adult I recognized that the plated carapace was something called a pronotum. They remind me of Devil's Leaf Mantis. Later in life, when the Ender's Game movie was released, I get massive déjà vu and just lock into the depiction of the Formix. Especially since some of the body volume was accentuated by the natural extension to the hard parts of their exterior. They have softer flesh on the interior and more moving parts. Colorful, holographically as light shines off of them. Just beautiful. One recognizes that I'm awake and I feel its hand on my head. Gentle. Caressing. Like I'm its favorite somehow. The other pulls out a syringe and I see this strange fluid inside. Reminds me of the effect of oil on water. That one injects me under the tent. I don't feel anything. I'm awake for a while, ultimately I fall asleep. I have a small, red mark on my chest, dead center, that I know wasn't there before. Genetic history of heart disease, valve failure and bypass surgery required. Nothing on my side whatsoever. Encounter one of two very memorable. I had checkups once every 2 years, ending on my 18th birthday. Encounter 2 of 2. I wake up one day semi-conscious. Same beings. They appear to be checking something. I have no idea at the time. Assuming now later, comparing my dream to biometrics or other telemetry. This dreaming is less pleasant, but I don't sense hostility. This was like dentistry. Just as stressful. But still just felt like seeing a dental hygienist. This time I have my head stabilized. There is this scraping sensation at the top of my head. Fuck me, it is annoying as hell. It feels like the actual inside of my skull, the very tip top has a metal probe to it or something. It doesn't hurt excessively, but it is recognized. Thinking about it now makes the top of my head sore. One is watching a screen like a hawk, I can tell another is doing some kind of delicate work near the top of my head. Eventually the scraping stops. There is a sense of irritation, like inflammation, that ultimately passes. Lose awareness again shortly after. Wake up and the topic of my head is just tender, sore, sensitive. No blood or any other kind of wound. It does feel like there is a very slight cleft there. Those are the two prominent things I can recall. I don't know what the end goal or motive is. I only bring this up anonymously because I don't desire unwanted attention. There are people who feel animosity towards these insectoids, a feeling I do not share. All I know is if given the option between humanity and them, my allegiance is very much in their court. As if it were any sort of competition at all. I don't say any of this to be mean-spirited, I just know that if one ever appeared to me I would simply wait and listen to what it would say to me. I have a lot of ghost-type stories. This is one that didn't directly involve me but I got to witness. It occurred over about a month, maybe 2, involved an apartment I was living in. Think of one big square building and then divide it in 4 sections. I stayed on the bottom, a neighbor stayed opposite on the top. I'm just married, outside in my yard trying to plant grass. Start hearing a chanting noise, and around the corner comes this lady burning something, looking like a witch, and staring at my neighbor's balcony, real intense, as she chants and walks around my fence. I stop and ask her what she's doing, she tells me she's a famous energy healer or something like that. It was a while ago so I don't remember it all. But she goes on to explain that she's been here a few times already and that my neighbor is having issues with negative spiritual energy in her unit. So she's here to cleanse it? I wrap up the conversation, she continues on. See the neighbor sometime that week and ask her about it, neighbor says something is in her unit with her. She describes it as poltergeist-type activity, remarks about the land we are on, and generally seems freaked out. Fast forward, one day I'm getting back from work and this lady is moving all her belonging to her vehicle out front. I ask her what's going on. She tells me last night she was picked up and held against the wall in the air by some entity and she had marks all over her. She wasn't staying another night there and she wasn't bullshitting about leaving because this woman broke her lease and was out before it got dark. Never saw her or the witch again. Please notice me, senpai, I swear on my mother's life and my own this is a true experience I had. Be me at around 12 to 13. My mom is a doctor and works privately at her owned office, in an old building of 3 floors, ground floor, first and second. My mother is now retired and stopped working there even before then. She used to complain all the time about that road being bad for business. It's in the middle of the city, but on that specific road, very little traffic happens. While every other road around is pretty much bustling with people, cars, and noise, very few people take that road. It's pretty wide also, it's not a dark alley or anything, it's quite open since in that road buildings tend to not be that tall, 4 or 5 floors max. So I always found that odd. When going there it still gives me the creeps since I still live somewhat nearby. The buildings here are also open in the middle letting light in. Now the building itself, although now renovated, I remember it was pretty old. It is in the middle of the road which is pretty long. The entrance gives to a long corridor. In my memory it is damp, dark, and cobblestone all around, but now it isn't anymore. It gives to a curved staircase with light shining through the roof down the middle of the staircase. There were no lights so the corridor was pretty dark, only contrasted by the light of the staircase. I live in a Muslim country, so there is an etiquette of sorts about how health workers are supposed to dress and present themselves. One innocuous day of middle class, I went back to my mom's office once school was over, as it usually was also almost time for her to close shop, so we could both get home and I would help her carry groceries, as per usual. Once getting to the entrance, I saw 3 people, 2 nurses and 1 man in a wheelchair and what seemed to be 2 nurses on each side of him. It was just silhouettes, the light was behind them so I couldn't figure out faces or anything. They were standing still, at the foot of the staircase, light behind them, almost waiting for me to get by so they can get out, or so I assumed. The corridor is pretty tight so that made sense. The image I was presented struck me for a second. I stopped, but then I approached the staircase. At that moment I thought it was just a patient coming out of my mom's office. That wouldn't be the first odd person coming for a consultation. By the time I got closer, I could figure out faces. There were 2 stunningly beautiful nurses, although I didn't think about it much. They were really oddly fitted, think typical World War II nurses, very short skirts. Crosses on their hats, remember, Muslim country, something approximately like pickrel. I didn't think of it much, only way after it struck me how weird this image I was presented was. The 2 nurses were really beautiful and were the first thing that attracted my attention. One of them had a very dark complexion, something like short hair, but still extremely beautiful. The other one had a lighter complexion, but that one I don't remember much. I only interacted with the dark-looking one. I then noticed the man they were escorting. He had jeans, and a white button shirt, something to that effect. His whole body underneath seemed wrapped in bandages. I couldn't even see skin. He did not talk, but I felt he was aware and acknowledged me. I then talked to the black nurse, inquired about the man. The details are fuzzy since it's been almost 20 years now. But I remember asking if they came out of my mom's office. She responded in the positive. The whole interaction afterwards became wholesome. I felt at ease and safe, and I remember that specifically. Weirdly enough, although the details of the short conversation are all fuzzy. I then bade them farewell and walked up the staircase. I remember at the first floor, with one remaining, I looked down at them. They were already looking at me smiling, both nurses, light shining straight to their faces. I may have waved, and they may have waved back, I don't remember. I then rushed to my mom. My mom opened up pretty quickly. She didn't have much business and it was the time she was expecting me. I then immediately asked her about the weird-looking nurses and the man in bandages. She thought I was nuts. I told her to look down. There was no one. 20 seconds earlier they were there. They didn't even make a sound. I went to the closest window giving to that road, watched for a good 5 minutes left and right. They weren't there either. When I was 10 years old, I was up at night, walking around my room, hearing a strange voice. It sounded halfway between being in my head and being in the real world. I then saw a small, ethereal, cartoonish-looking man appear on my bed. He was there for a good 8 seconds and then faded away. Last night was the first time in a long time that I wasn't drunk before retiring to bed. My dreams become strikingly more lucid and vivid when I'm sober, and include partly plausible, and partly fantastic narratives with interactive characters. Typically at some point throughout the backdrop, it will occur to me that I am dreaming, so I will attempt to suddenly touch one of these entities, characters, manifestations, whatever like, and the set cascades and falls apart. Sometimes some of the entities mingle with people from my life. For example, last night, while dreaming like this, I found myself in a little shop of sorts with a real-life pal. For some reason I didn't have enough for cigarettes, and the fellow behind the counter wearing a deep purple pinstripe suit jacket handed me 2 coins, one of which I examined and saw it to be a Canadian 50-cent piece, the other was an American quarter, I think. He invited me to sit down for a chat in an adjoining room, and though I cannot recall the subject matter, I suddenly attempted to touch his shoulder. The whole scene dematerialized and I thought I had awakened in my own bed, but with a strange young woman next to me. I live alone with a dog, and when I went to touch her she produced a small device and shone a yellowy beam at my eyes, upon which I awoke for real. Oddly, after getting out of bed and heading to the kitchen, I'd noticed that I had left my back sliding door open all night, but I don't think that would be any different than sleeping outdoors in terms of entities accessing one's subconscious or whatever. Greentext thread original content only. It was 2014 and I was a senior in high school. At the time, I lived in Central Texas, but my brother was in school in Colorado. Since he was graduating soon and I hadn't yet visited, I decided to drive out to him when our spring breaks aligned. The only issue was that I technically wasn't supposed to be driving. Believe it or not, despite being a dumbass 18-year-old who liked to drive fast, I'd never had a traffic violation. Never even gotten a parking ticket. I did, unfortunately, get caught drinking with my buddies a week prior to the drive. My license was suspended for 30 days, but I didn't let that stop me. I was gonna see my brother one way or another, so I left late in the day, chugged Red Bulls to stay alert, and stuck to the back roads as much as possible. It added a few hours to my trip, but it allowed me to avoid state troopers for the most part. By midnight, I felt like I was in the Australian outback. I had taken road trips through my state before, but this particular route was something else. There was nothing but scrub brush and signs that were way too weather-beaten to read properly. I was so busy thinking about how utterly isolated I was that I almost missed the orange traffic cone in the road, placed square atop a yellow center line. I reduced my speed, but I didn't stop. I was confident that there was no work being done on the road. I had checked the maps prior to setting off and there would have been more signage to alert people. Since I knew there was no construction in the area, I found the placement of the cone a little odd. Of course, junk on the road isn't such a rarity, but the way it aligned perfectly with the meridian line felt intentional. A few miles later, my drive was again interrupted. My high beams reached far into the night, providing enough visibility for me to see another oddity. There was something else in the road, this time in my lane. I squinted, Another traffic cone? It was tall enough, but not quite thin enough. I slowed down a little more. I remember thinking, that can't possibly be a person. I got a little closer. Lo and behold, it was. I veered into the other lane, but the person in the road mirrored my car, clearly trying to get me to stop. They threw one of their arms out as if welcoming the cold, metal embrace of my front bumper. I slammed on the brakes abruptly enough to give myself whiplash. Confusion and anger rose up in me as I turned my headlights down and got a better look at the person in front of me. I regretted stopping once I could see the man more clearly. At first glance he seemed like a normal guy. He was tall and middle-aged, clad in blue jeans and a long, tan coat. He had no particularly distinct facial features, except for a set of blue eyes that somehow seemed too small for his face. He gave me a wide grin when he saw me stop. I guess he could have just been relieved, but I couldn't give him the benefit of the doubt due to what he was holding. Balled up in his hand was something small, furry, and bloody. I couldn't tell exactly what it was, but it kinda looked like a dead rat. I had no idea why he'd be holding such a thing, and it didn't really matter. All I knew was that there was something wrong with the guy. A suspicion only exacerbated by the fact that he still had one of his hands behind his back. Was he hiding something? A weapon maybe? I took my foot off the brake. I might have been dumb enough to stop, but at least I wasn't dumb enough to stay. As I tried to maneuver around him, the man again moved in front of my car, but when he saw I wasn't going to stop, he took a step back. As he did so, he let his arms fall to his sides, and I saw what he'd been concealing behind his back. It was a large claw hammer. I sped off, not entirely believing what had just happened. There was a small chance that the guy genuinely needed help, but I sure wasn't going to stick around to figure that out. As I drove off, I looked in my rearview mirror. Before the darkness swallowed him, I saw the man starting to run after my car. For a second, the sight made me nervous, but then it just made me laugh. Did he actually think he was going to catch up? I watched him disappear from view with a smile on my face. Fucking idiot, I said to myself. Now here's the punchline. No sooner did the words leave my mouth than my car jolted forward with a sickening thud. I looked back at the road, but it was too late. There came several pops in quick succession, loud as gunshots. My dashboard lit up like a switchboard, warnings blinking uselessly as my tires chewed themselves to pieces beneath me. The car started to drag left, the steering wheel fighting me as a low, flapping sound rose up from the wheels. When I stopped the car, I gave myself a moment to catch my breath, then threw the door open and hopped out. Using the flashlight I kept in the glove box, I assessed the damage. All four tires were shredded, strips of rubber curling off like dead skin. I just stood there for a second, light shaking in my hand, unable to believe how fast everything had happened. I angled the beam back down the road, sweeping over cracked asphalt and weeds. 50 meters back, half hidden in the dark, was a spike strip. I hadn't seen the damn thing at all. Between where I'd encountered the man and where I'd hit the stinger, there was a slight hill. I couldn't see over the hill, couldn't see much of anything, but somehow I knew I was being pursued. The man with the hammer, who was probably the one behind the traffic cone and the spike trap, was making his way toward my car at that very moment. I had only put about a half-mile of distance between us, which meant I had maybe 5 minutes tops to figure out what to do. I checked my phone and, as luck would have it, I had no reception. My first thought was to get back in the car and lock the doors, but what good would that do me against a hammer-wielding maniac? I could run out into the fields on either side of the road, but there was really nowhere to hide out there, and I was loath to isolate myself even further from help. My plan, if it could even be called that, was to run. First, I turned on my headlights to alert passing cars. Then I grabbed my phone, wallet, keys, and flashlight out of the car and mentally prepared for a very long jog. Thankfully, I was a cross-country runner in high school, and I had good endurance. While I knew I couldn't run all the way to the next town, I knew that another car had to show up eventually. I'd flag them down and ask for help, or at the very least I'd probably stumble into an area with reception and call the police. I shut and locked my poor, crippled car, then took a glance behind me. He was cresting the hill, less than a quarter mile out. Something about the bend in the road, coupled with the low lighting, make his long, loping stride seem unnatural. He seemed like he was floating. I was already freaked out, but seeing that made me feel like I was being chased by something not entirely of this world. I turned and ran. I fought the urge to sprint, knowing I couldn't afford to wear myself out right away. Once a minute, I glanced behind me. My flashlight beam wasn't powerful enough to reach him, but I could still see the faint silhouette of the man against the cloudless, starry sky. He was small on the horizon, but he was there nonetheless, and worse, he was gaining on me. 5 minutes turned to 10, and I couldn't believe that he hadn't given up already. I told myself he couldn't keep up the pace, and yet every time I turned around, he was a little closer than before. At some point, I tried shouting out, tried asking what he wanted, but of course there was no answer. Soon I was wiping sweat from my brow and thanking God that I'd been wearing athletic shoes on my drive. As I looked over my shoulder for a routine check-in, I saw the shimmer of headlights. There was a pickup truck ambling toward me. I bolted straight into the middle of the road, waving my arms around and shouting for help. For a second, the truck slowed, but then it eased around me and kept right on going. No windows rolling down, no honk. The bastard didn't even stop long enough to see what my deal was. I shouted something at the shrinking, red tail lights, but it didn't matter. My salvation had left me in the dust. I stood there long enough to realize that standing still was a bad idea, and then I pushed down my rage and disbelief. I looked behind me once again, and strangely, that time, I didn't see anyone. Maybe my pursuer had fallen behind, or maybe he had given up entirely. Or, hell, maybe I'd hallucinated the entire thing and abandoned my car in the middle of nowhere for no reason. In any case, I kept moving, periodically checking my phone. I guess I was due for some luck that night, because after another half mile, I saw a car on the side of the road, a red Dodge Charger. It was turned off and dark inside, but the tires were perfectly intact. There was no visible damage on the car, certainly no evidence of hitting a stinger, and that fact made me wonder if it belonged to my pursuer. I made my way to the car. There was no person inside, but there were still keys in the ignition. Usually, this is where I end my story. Dodge Ex Machina to the rescue. I settled into the driver's seat and breathed an enormous sigh of relief when a turn of the keys brought the engine roaring to life. By some miracle, the car was drivable, and it had enough gas to take me to the next town. Finally confident that I would survive the ordeal, I looked out the passenger side window and saw something that made my heart stop. Yards away from my car and rapidly closing the distance was the man. He hadn't given up at all. He'd merely started running in an arc through the fields, avoiding the road that I'd watched so diligently, and so uselessly. He had banked on me losing sight of him so he could catch me off guard, and it had almost worked. By the time I slammed my foot on the gas, he practically had his fingers on the handle. I caught one last glimpse of him in the side mirror as the Charger tore off. TT was a pale, grinning blur closing in faster than should have been possible. After that, I drove the car straight to the police station in the next town. At dawn, when they took me back to recover my own vehicle, every single window had been shattered. Not simply cracked, but obliterated. Nothing had been stolen from my car, which somehow made everything worse. As far as I know, they never found the man with the hammer. Here's the part I generally omit from my little story. When I, exhausted and nearing my limit, finally made it to the charger, the driver's side door was open. I clicked on my flashlight and swept the beam across the interior. The cabin was a wreck. Blood was smeared over the wheel, gear shift, and driver's seat, like some injured creature had been thrashing around. The windshield was cracked from the inside. From the open door trailed a dark streak through the gravel and weeds. A crushed path, mottled with red, where something heavy had been dragged. I let my beam follow the indentation until it caught on something still and misshapen. There was a man lying there on his back, some poor bastard who, most likely, had offered a ride to a downtrodden traveler. His mouth hung open as if he'd died while trying to speak. His skull had been bashed in. Part of it was just gone, leaving a cave above his eyes where something heavy had landed over and over again. The white of his skull shone moon-like under my light. That matted clump in the hitchhiker's hand wasn't roadkill. It was a whole goddamn scalp. Be me, big UFO fan, but despite the anecdotal evidence, eventually convince myself grays aren't real due to Mirage Men documentary. Be on a road trip with my hot blonde curvy friend with benefits who's into astrology and some paranormal stuff. Start talking about paranormal podcasts, bring up Otherworld and the crossed arms case. Oh yeah, and on, I wake up with my arms crossed like that all the time, usually after I have the alien dreams I've been having since I was a kid. You what? JPG. She proceeds to go deeper in on her abduction experiences than she ever has before, describing sleep paralysis moments where she saw grays touching her parents and examining them in bed. The repeat nature of the dreams, including the memory of people having sex aboard a UFO-type craft that she was ushered past by the grays, the memory of other kids being there with her and them being scared and freaking out. And a memory of an older doctor-looking gray who showed her Earth outside a porthole window. I keep getting into the space with UFO research where I convince myself it all must be bullshit, it must be, because there would be proof if not. And then getting disillusioned by Luis Elizondo and the very staged-looking whistleblower movement. And then something like this happens and I have no idea how to feel. My friend is very spiritual and woo-woo, but she's not a liar. If she says she had some kind of experience, I believe her. But what the hell does it mean? Are we a zoo? She even mentioned they do checkups on her reproductive organs in the dreams. Why would that be necessary? What the hell is the purpose of all of this? Are these experiences objective and real, or subjective and spiritual? Is it the government doing weird shit with our reproductive systems for nefarious purposes, or ILMAOS taking eggs and sperm to set up some kind of backup human population? It really fucks with me. Be me. Accidentally bootstrap shorter mitochondria as a joke with chat. Keep going. Leak it backwards in time through Bitcoin. Whoops, Undertale is now Carcassa but in real life. Keep going. Whoops, Harry Dubois is literally Harry Haller from Hermann Hesse's Steppenwolf and there's math to prove it. Keep going. Whoops, the internet accidentally invented semen retention but nobody told them it's when you eat cereal. Keep going. Amtroon, dead name is PEPE, frogs are transitory animals. Keep going. Time is going backwards. Shit a whole pizza, throw it off of a balcony. Breaking Bad. Keep going. Tell/X/. Nobody is going to believe this. Early 20s. Beer run with older bro and his buddy. Stop at the gas station nearest to home. Get the shit, for loco time, come back to the car. About to close the doors. Hey guys, what's up? See this incredibly skinny and rather short dude standing at the passenger side door. Just kind of appeared out nowhere. Older looking, platinum blonde, pot-marked face, really light blue eyes, small yet deep scar under his left eye, bulbous and slightly crooked nose. Yeah, hey bro, what's up? Oh, you guys don't remember me? All look at each other. Proceeds to identify himself as someone we used to hang out with all the time when we were in high school. Problem is he looks the exact opposite of this friend of ours. Friends from HS, average height, little bit chubby, dark brown hair, dark brown eyes, clear face, small nose, slightly older than me, slightly younger than my bro. We kind of just go along with it. Start reminiscing about good old days with anecdotes only our friend would know. Subtly ask him questions only our friend would know. He knows literally everything our friend knows. Mentions he's sorry that he lost contact with us but he got married and he's a stepdad now, LMAO. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Walks off. We all are kinda weirded out. Look out the back window. Gone baby gone. About 2 months later or so. Leaving the local Walmart. See our friend. The real friend. Looks pretty much exactly like he did in HS, just gained a little weight and grew some facial hair. Haven't seen you guys in forever. Sorry about that, got shacked up with a girl and been working a lot for the stepkids, you know. What the fug? Tell him about the encounter. Swears he doesn't know what we're talking about. Swears he doesn't know anyone who fits the description. No clue what happened. I figured it was a buddy of his that somehow knew us and was playing a joke. But he swore he doesn't know anyone like that, and we've since hung out throughout the years and never came across Blondie again. I'm a classic gamer, that's what people know me for, that and my love for spicy food. I can eat the hottest of chilies, Carolina Reaper, ghost pepper, and even that burger from Britain that put 2 journalists in a hospital. But what I experienced when playing that game would be destroy me. I can't even think of that game without knowing that I met true evil that night. As I said, I am a classic gamer, only the old school classics for me, none of that new garbage. I also only play on original hardware, fuck emulators. But one of the big problems is that scalpers have priced everybody out. I never really got into Pokemon because I was too busy kicking ass on Mega Man or some of the hardest NES and SNES games out there. I decided to rectify that, but almost every Pokemon card has priced to shit by scalpers. But then I found a Pokemon card just called Pokemon Rouge for a cheap price on eBay. I thought that this sounds like a rare beta copy, so I placed my bid, and to my surprise I won. Well, just about the other bidder got near my highest bid. But to this day I wish I hadn't won that auction. It was a day like any other when it arrived, but I can't help looking back at it with sheer horror. The mailman delivered the post as per usual, and there was my parcel. It was just a plain box with my address written in red ink, but to this day I wish I hadn't opened that box. I opened the box carefully, removing the tape and taking the label of also carefully. I was taught to take your time opening presents growing up. But to this day I wish I had never opened that box carefully. There it was, the Pokemon card. It was a plain blank pure red card with no label, only written on it Pokemon Rouge. I thought that this definitely was a beta card and placed it in my Game Boy. But to this day I wish I had never placed that card in my Game Boy. Then I turned the Game Boy on. But to this day I wish I had never turned that Game Boy on. I was met with a title screen with the title Pokemon Rouge on the title. The Pokemon logo was different, almost twisted and evil, and the background was blood red. I pressed start. But insanely wished I hadn't. I was met by an 8-bit screen that sounded like it had emerged from the depths of Hades. The screen flashed red like warning sign, warning me not to play this game. Then I was at the start of the game. Professor Oak appeared on screen and asked me my name. I entered it and there was a hellish 8-bit laugh that sounded like Satan was laughing at me. The screen went black for 5 seconds. I was then told to name my rival, who I called Poopy Head. Again that horrible Satan laughing. I guess he thought my joke was funny. I wished that was case, but it wasn't. Then the screen froze for 5 seconds. I was now in the game and I had to go to Oak's lab to choose a Pokemon. I arrived, but Oak said he was out of Pokemon all except one. Rouge. I had no choice but to take Rouge, who looked like an evil twisted creature from hell a shoal. Then my rival came to me and asked for a Pokemon battle. He sent out Mewtwo and I sent out Rouge. I couldn't believe it cause he just sent out a level 100 Mewtwo. I got Rouge to attack and he killed Mewtwo in one hit. And I don't mean that Mewtwo fainted, I mean he was fucking dead. Poopy Head was angry and sad at this. How dare you kill Mewtwo, he was my best friend, he demanded. But then Rouge killed Poopy Head. Oak was shocking and dug-height, I mean you could actually see the pain and sorrow in his eyes. No, in his soul. Oak then challenging me to a Pokemon battle. He sent out Arceus. But Rouge killed Arceus in one hit. Yes, I mean killed like fucking dead, no barley cross fingers. This game had just killed God. The Rouge killed Professor Oak and he screamed like a man being tortured by a million demons. Then the screen flashed red for 10 seconds. Then the player's mum ran up and screamed at the player for having such an evil Pokemon. But then unthinkable happened, Rogue killed the player's own mother. I didn't want to continue at this point, this game is a work of pure evil. The Rouge started destroying buildings. The Pokemon police was brought in to stop him, but they were no match, Rogue killed them too. I couldn't believe it, Rouge had just killed Officer Jenny, who I always had a crush on. This bastard had just killed my waifu. I cried for several minutes at how this game could have killed her. I was gonna turn it off, but then there was a demonic voice play the game. I had no choice but to continue. It was then that I decided to go for glory and complete my Pokemon journey. I had Rouge and with him nobody could stop me. I rampaged across the land battling trainers and they stood no chance. Rouge would kill their Pokemon in the fight and then the trainers themselves. I took on the gym leaders and turned their bases into graveyards. Soon gym leaders wouldn't even fight me but just handed over their badges with a look of sorrow and disgust. People would come all over the Pokemon world to pay me tribute. I would decide who lives and who dies. I was a king, an emperor, no, I was a god. The world got slowly more darker and more twisted the more evils I committed. As if the game's colors were being drained or dark-nated by my evil deeds. Soon I came to the Elite Four and the world trembled at my feet. Even the moon was frightened of me, frightened to death, the whole world was frightened to death. I arrived at the Elite Four and those pathetic fools begged for mercy and I gave none, for I had none to give. I forced them to battle me so I could enjoy slaughtering their pitiful Pokemon. Those who would not fight I killed on the spot. Soon I arrived at the Hall of Fame. I had to fight the final opponent, but I had killed Poopy Head, so who could it be? The answer would shock me to the very core of my living soul. It was the player's dad. Yes, you heard that right, it was the player's own father. You never see your father in any of the Pokemon games. But here he was standing right in front of me. He said, "Son, I am very disappointed in you and you have gone too far in your quest for glory. You let this evil Pokemon twist you until you became the very thing you swore to destroy." My character said, "You can't stop me now, I am a god." And the response was, "We shall see." Then the fight. I was hoping for a good challenge, but he went down like all the others. Then Rouge killed the player's own father and his last word were, "You've committed the ultimate sin now and you won't get away with it, they'll come for you and you will regret going down the paths of evil." Then he dead. From that moment I enjoyed all the perks of being not only the Pokemon champion but the Pokemon emperor. The Pokemon god. I indulged in every vice imaginable and killed just for fun or cause I was bored. I was living the high life with rewards unimaginable in any Pokemon game, but they were mine, all mine. But soon I started receiving messages in game, "The Poke Gods are angry with you and prepare for the wrath of the Poke Gods, and the Poke Gods will put an end to your evil." I ignored them. Then one day I was doing villain's deeds when a Pokemon battle started. Missing No appeared and Rogue killed him. But then we were attacked by more glitch Pokemon, female symbol, Charizard M, 94, 95H, Game NAPM FPKMNK, PC4SH and many more. Now if anyone is familiar with glitch Pokemon, you would know how disturbing and nightmare-inducing these fuckers are. They are the most powerful Pokemon of all time, stronger than Mewtwo or even Arceus by far. They are the closest any game has gotten to Lovecraftian horrors, abominations that can't be grasped by limits of the game. Abominations that destroy the fragile reality of the game. Abominations that's very presence fucks the game as they laugh in you face. It's these fuckers that know the super glitch moves that make game into their bitch. It's these fuckers that cause the ultra disturbing Zaz glitch that changes your name to Zaz, makes the game go haywire and turns all your Pokemon into suicide bombers. Yet even these unholy glitch abominations we no match for Rogue. He was unimpressed by their glitchy antics, and when they used disturbing super moves, Rogue would just something like, "Guess things are finally started to get interesting." Or, "How pathetic is those parlor tricks really meant to impress me?" Then Rouge killed every single glitch Pokemon. Even they didn't stand a chance against him. You could heat them dying in glitchy agony. I actually would have felt sorry for those glitch abominations if my soul hadn't been hard to a black cold stone. I watched Rouge kill those fuckers, and now with those abominations gone, how could the world not see me as a hero? I killed the glitch Pokemon, the greatest existential risk the Pokemon world has ever faced. But as I basked in the glory of my total victory, my greatest victory, the threat still continued and got even worse. The Poke Gods will destroy you. The glitch Pokemon were only a warm-up to test if you're a serious threat. You have shown yourself to be a serious threat, now be smited. I ignored then again, who do these Poke Gods think they are? I am the champion, motherfucker. But if the glitch Pokemon aren't the Poke Gods, then who are? I would soon find out, and I wish now to all that is holy to that I hadn't. One day I was heading across the land, destroying far and wide, when I found all my loyal followers were dead. Their heads were impaled on spikes and their guts ripped out like a gutted fish. There was a note: "Your day of reckoning has come. Yours sincerely, love and kisses, Poke Gods." I was real mad. How could they kill my followers? Who do they think they are, Poke Gods or something? Then I found my Hall of Fame had been wiped. My name had been crossed out off all official Pokemon documents. Then there was a blinding flash of light. As in light from the Game Boy, so bright it almost blinded me in real fucking life. Then heavenly music started playing. It wasn't 8-bit, it sounded like MP3 quality. It was better than MP3 quality, better than any music I have heard before. Then a message appeared: "Heavenly warrior wants to battle." A holy warrior appeared who was so holy that my sinful eyes could not look upon him. He fought me with Pokemon I never heard before. Whereas the glitch Pokemon were unholy glitchy abominations. These were too holy, all of them were shinny. Rouge and I fought a good fight, we just about won and destroyed them. But Rouge was badly wounded, I was just able to heal him. When scared Athena wants to fight. It was the holy goddess herself, and we stood no chance. Her Pokemon were out of this world, and the next, they killed Rogue with a single strike. And again I mean killed. Rogue is fucking dead. Then my character is dragged to the world of the gods, where every god of every pantheon puts him on trial. They show him the graves of all his many victims and the worlds he destroyed. Then he is taken to the underworld and shown all his victims suffering in Hades. All of them are being tortured. And I mean they are being fucked up beyond belief. And all of this torture is being shown in hyper-realistic detail. Like you wouldn't think the Game Boy could show such sadistic details. Professor Oak had his eyes gouged out and his mouth cut into a Glasgow smile. Poopy Head is being made to eat shit while his intestines are being warped around a tree. The player's own mother has had head ripped off and shoved up his father's arse, so whenever he takes a shit from all the evil being forced down his throat, she has to see him shit over her. The gym leaders were being brutalized. Misty was being crushed slowly by water pressure greater than the Challenger Deep and drown at the same time. Brock is being crushed by a huge boiled boulder that goes over him over and over again. Sarge is being fried to a crisp, worse than Max Schreck was at the end of Batman Returns. Erica is being eaten alive by a giant Venus flytrap whilst slowly being turned into plant matter. Koga is being dissolved slowly by corrosive gas. Sabrina is being destroyed by psychic attacks that make her face make all kinds of stupid faces before her head explodes like in scanners. Blaine is being slowly burned alive while being roasted on a spit. Giovanni is being given the mafia torture that would rival any disturbing gangster film scene. And even Rogue is being brutally raped while being eaten alive. Then the judges of hell read the many sins of my character out. Every person he murdered gave evidence, everybody he sent to hell condemned him. The judges and all the gods and goddesses found him guilty. He was sent to the very worst region of hell where I was forced to watch him being insanely tortured in the most graphic of details, all hyper-realistic. I heard him cry in agony, scream in pain and rage and fury, heard him cry mournfully, beg for forgiveness, laugh in insane lunacy, gibber like an idiot and cry for help, all while being given horrors that nobody should have to describe, let alone watch. I can't even describe what he went through. Hell doesn't even describe it. This was beyond hell, beyond any suffering ever experienced by anyone in the history of mankind. Or by any creature before mankind. Even those fucked up injuries dinosaurs got could not compare to the fucked up shit being done to the protagonist. I felt sorry for him and I cried and prayed hadn't he suffered enough. It was all too much. I just couldn't watch, I just couldn't take it, but I had to know how it ends. Then after he had been put through tortures that would make the most painful medical illnesses, the most agonizing tortures, the most inhumane crimes against humanity, the most soul-destroying crimes and the most fucked up injuries that the dinosaurs suffered all look like the Care Bears picnic by comparison, he was finally given final death. He was ripping apart his very soul, destroying and broken down to parts so small that they would be smaller than the smallest stuff ever known. Then the message came up: you have paid the price for your sins and now you are fucking dead. Game over. Then the game turned itself off. I couldn't turn it back again, it completely stopped working. I was thankful cause I never wanted to play that fucking game ever again. I had to go through months of extended theory after that and I almost committed for life in a loony bin. But after years of theory I was finally free. I don't know what happened to the game. I don't want to know. But if you ever see this game, then do you favor and don't ever fucking play it. Stay the fuck away from it for your own good and sanity and for your very soul. Don't make the same mistake I made. Anyway, that's my story. You might laugh and say this is all made up. But it isn't, this is a true story, believe me. Be me. 27. Just get off work after 12-hour shift. Come home. Open fridge. Leftovers are gone. Look at table. Ghost eating my food. Live in Wyoming. Nothing around my parents' house for miles. One day my girlfriend comes over while my parents are out and we play World of Warcraft. She brought over lots of snacks and we're pigging out, having a good time. It's getting late at night, we're starting to quiet down. Hear a noise. Girlfriend suddenly asks what that noise was, voice a little louder than usual. Start to smell a sulfur smell. Get a bad feeling and start locking the doors. Hear something again by the window next to the couch where my girlfriend was sitting. Sulfur smell really strong there. Suddenly hear a monstrous noise. It came from my girlfriend. She just let out a colossal fart. There was nothing outside. Has anyone else seen this man? Okay, I may make this short. When I was younger I was sleeping on my couch. Then I woke up to see a man in all white, pure white skin, pure black eyes, a white toe fat, a smile, and just like the eyes it was pure black, no teeth, no nothing. I looked at him and I asked him what is he, and he spoke. I swear he spoke, but before he could finish I ran off. Has anyone else seen this guy or anything like him? Who was that? I posted before and it was a thing that happened when I was a child. I truly don't believe in the paranormal, but I still check under my bed and look to the corners of my room with suspicious sounds. I stayed the weekend over at my parents' and it was just me and my dad. My mom stayed at my sister's because her husband is deployed. As guys do, we watched Ballerina and ate terribly, then went to sleep. The guest room is upstairs and my parents downstairs. I am a night owl but crashed around 3 a.m. and my dad is a light sleeper, so this could be why. My dad said around 4:30 to 5 a.m. he heard someone stomping and making the huffing sounds every step. He asked if I was working out, which I have done in the past early on. It was not me. His bedroom has an angle to the living room where he was hearing it. Against the walls he could see a shadow going up and down. See, I don't sleepwalk, or has anyone told me I have? My dad is in his 60s and said he felt the vibrations as if someone was going up and down fast, burpees for instance. I was fast asleep upstairs and I think it was him being in a dreamy state since I've done it before. However, that night I felt weird going to sleep. I was at a constant unease. Note, they just bought this house a year ago in New England and it is about 90 years old. Gang stalkers using speakers to annoy, very low frequency. Hello. Greetings. I've been getting targeted for approximately 1.5 years now. My targeting basically began with just one of my neighbors using his truck's subwoofers to play this mixture of noise, a humming and thumping that causes what I can only describe as torment. Soon this expanded into something much more dreadful. It's extremely powerful, and even though barely any audible tone is heard, it causes intense vibrating similar to sitting on a motorcycle when he is playing it. This is the #1 tactic used against me, combined with huge numbers of people mobbing me in public and acting bizarrely. Does anyone else experience this? When I'm walking places, I'll have cars drive in loops around me playing this noise, and it can really break my focus to the point it's hard to get a prayer out behind "help me." Absolutely debilitating and terrifying. I'm young and feel like my life has been taken away by sick people who don't understand or care what I've already freaking been through. I hope this finds someone who can relate and know they're not alone. I think I experienced a glitch. Something really weird happened this morning. I can't explain it, and I'm not sure if r/paranormal is even the right place to post this, but here we are. I got up at 7:30 a.m. and started my day. I picked out the clothes I wanted to wear, made myself a cup of tea and hopped under the shower. When I got out, I checked the time and realized it was already 7:53 a.m. I panicked a bit, because I needed to be out of the house at 8:15. So I got dressed and made my makeup. I listened music on my headphones in the meantime, and I listened to at least 7 or 8 songs. Important information for later. After I was ready, I went into the kitchen to quickly feed my dog. I was just filling up his bowl, when I looked up to check the time on my kitchen clock. According to that clock, it was only 7:55 a.m. I stopped what I was doing and grabbed my phone to confirm the time, and my phone also says 7:55 a.m. So only 2 minutes have passed. But that is not possible. In those 2 minutes, I have made myself ready, made my makeup, listened to several songs all over 2 minutes long, and fed my dog. After that, I felt pretty off. Has anybody experienced something similar? My niece told me something terrifying. I was having a conversation with my niece. She told me that back in November 2024 she began to see this figure, which she described as a tall, approximately 6 feet, with a smile, a gold watch, and this thing appears once a month. This figure will appear in a corner somewhere or outside a window and smiles, then points at the watch, which is counting down. The time started at 1200 and is now at 6:25-ish. It appears to her once a month and not seen it this month. She's not sure why she's seeing it and is worried she's crazy. Her mom is worried that she's schizophrenic, but I lean on the spiritual side of life and do not think this is mental illness. She is also completely normal, does not hear things that aren't there and does not see things besides this. She's asked her friends if they see that when it appears but nobody else does. I've asked her in-depth questions in attempt to find out more like what time, date, when, and where she has this experience in hopes she's keeping track of when it's happening, but she hasn't. I informed her to do this. I understand that this may not be what I think it is and could be a mental thing, but I also don't want her to think she's crazy, and from the interactions I've had with her I just don't believe she is. If anybody has any idea or has experienced something similar, please let me know. I had a restroom incident. So I was traveling yesterday 2 hours, and within the first hour I stopped at a gas station that I have been to many times before. I went to the restroom, and as I'm in there the soap dispenser handle wiggled non-stop. I was ready to wash my hands and it kept going. It's not an automatic soap dispenser and I really can't explain how or why it was doing that. I messed with it a little bit to try to debunk if it was the hand dryer or the air movement from the door closing, and nothing made it do it again. Was rather odd, but interesting. So this happened 3 hours ago. So me and my family were doing our nightly routine, eating supper in front of the TV, all of a sudden there is a loud alarm going off. So I get up to see what that sound is, and it's coming from the basement stairs. Some backstory: my son likes to wander around at night, so we put door alarms on the outside doors and his room door. This was helpful when my mom was staying with us as well, because she had Alzheimer's and she would try to wander off. So this is to say that I opened the basement door and found the source of the noise was the extra alarms that still had the pull tab in them. The one going off the switch had been turned on. Mind you, these things go off the instant they come off the magnet piece. And where these were stored there weren't any magnet pieces near them. So they managed to turn themselves on, with the pull tab still on the batteries, behind a locked door. The only other access is in the basement. It's behind a heavy-duty door, with a security door over it, and the security door is keyed different from anything else. Something weird happened to me last night. At around like 11:30 to 12 o'clock I was scrolling through my phone and saw a shadow walking behind it. Not like a human shadow, like an animal, a big animal, kinda like a bear or a cow. I thought I was just tired, so I went to put down my phone and go to sleep. I woke up at around 2-3-ish in the morning, and I saw something looking at me through the corner of my bed. Like a big animal, literally staring, and made of something resembling red yarn or fabric. I got so scared I yelled at it to go away, and it seemed to dissolve in the air after that. I was really scared, my chest felt really tight, and suddenly I started sweating like I had been placed in a sauna. I stumbled out of my room and went to sleep in my brother's spare bed. It didn't matter either way because I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. Has anybody else had a similar encounter with something like that? Or does anybody know what that thing might be? For more context, my house and family have a history with entities and things going inside there and staying, doing their thing and whatnot. This thing wasn't like anything I've felt in my home before. It felt so oppressive and evil I could only think of running. My brother says my room is the most energetically charged in the house, that it always feels really dense and uncomfortable. I don't know, I'm still very shaken up. Thanks to anybody who took the time to read. Sorry if it's awkwardly formatted or there's any mistakes. English is not my native language and I don't use Reddit often.
Are you a targeted individual? Have you had a paranormal encounter, or are the victim of an unregulated government experiment and would like to share your story with us? Would you like to send us some fan mail or a hate-filled rant? Do you have an idea for a future episode or wish to send a complaint to HR? Email us at atomicshamanSweatlodge@protonmail.com. Like, share, Subscribe and be sure to check the notification bell. Follow the Atomic Shaman on Twitter at Motel and RV Park. Listen to Paranormal Greentext stories on Atomic Shaman TTS on YouTube. Catch the live streams of Atomic Shaman Sweat Lodge only on Rumble.